Someone saw her. She wasn't invisible anymore. Mallory, she finally signed, tears spilling down her cheeks. My name is Mallory. I'm Wyatt, the man signed back, his movements fluid and natural, like he had been signing his entire life. Stay right here with me and my daughter. I won't let anything happen to you. Julie, honey, this nice lady is going to sit with us for a little while, okay? She's having a very scary day, and we're going to help her. Okay, Daddy, Julie said, her little face suddenly serious in the way children become when they sense something important is happening. Is a bad guy being mean to her? Something like that, sweetheart. I need you to stay right here and be very brave. Can you do that for Daddy? Julie nodded solemnly. Wyatt stood and guided Mallory into the seat next to Julie, positioning himself so he could see both the door and the man in the gray hoodie. He signed to Mallory as he moved. I'm going to tell them to call the police. Don't worry, he's not going to touch you. He walked directly toward the cafe counter, where a young barista named Stephanie was wiping down the espresso machine. His voice was low but urgent, every word deliberate. Call the police right now. That man by the door has been stalking the woman at my table. She's deaf and doesn't have her phone. She's been trying to get help, but no one understood her. Don't let him leave. Stephanie's face went pale, but she was already reaching for the phone under the counter, her hands moving quickly as she dialed. Wyatt returned to the table and sat down across from Mallory. He signed to her, his movements calm and steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. The police are on their way. Can you tell me more about what's been happening? Mallory's hands were still shaking, but she managed to sign back, each gesture laden with weeks of accumulated fear. He's been following me for 2 weeks, outside my work at the bookstore, at the grocery store, outside my apartment building. I reported it to the police, but they said they couldn't do anything without evidence. Today was my day off. I just went out to get a few things. I didn't bring my phone. I didn't think I'd need it. And then I saw him again. He followed me for blocks. I tried to get help, but no one understood me. No one could hear me. The last sign, here, carried a weight that went beyond the physical act of hearing. Wyatt's jaw tightened. You did the right thing coming in here. You're not alone anymore. Julie, who had been watching the exchange with fascination, tugged on Wyatt's sleeve. Daddy, why is the pretty lady talking with her hands? She's deaf, sweetheart. That means she can't hear sounds the way we do, so she talks with her hands instead. And I learned how to understand her a long time ago because Uncle Micah talks the same way. Julie's eyes went wide with wonder rather than confusion. Like Uncle Micah? That's so cool! She turned to Mallory with the pure, unfiltered compassion that only children possess, completely unburdened by the awkwardness that made adults turn away. Don't be sad, pretty lady. My daddy is the best helper in the whole wide world. He even fixed my teddy bear's arm when it fell off, and now Mr. Snuggles is good as new. Mallory couldn't hear the words, but she watched Julie's animated little face, the way her tiny hands moved with emphasis, the way her eyes sparkled with earnest reassurance. And somehow, despite everything, despite the terror still coursing through her veins, despite the man in the gray hoodie 15 feet away, despite 2 weeks of living in fear, she felt something warm spreading through her chest. Wyatt signed to Mallory what Julie had said, and Mallory let out a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a sob, something beautifully human and broken and healing all at once. Your daughter is precious, she signed. She's my whole world, Wyatt replied, and something in the way his hands formed those words told Mallory there was a story there, a deep one, but that was for another time. The next few minutes felt like hours stretched thin. The cafe had grown quieter, the normal chatter subdued as people sensed something serious was happening. The man in the gray hoodie must have realized something was wrong because he started moving toward the door, trying to slip out unnoticed. But before he could escape, 2 police officers walked in, alerted by Stephanie's call. The cafe had grown completely silent now, everyone watching as the officers approached the man. One of the officers spoke briefly to Stephanie, who pointed toward Wyatt's table and then toward the man trying to leave. The other officer moved to block the exit. "Excuse me, sir. We need to ask you a few questions." The man in the gray hoodie's face changed from calm to angry to something almost desperate. "I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just getting coffee." "Then you won't mind answering a few questions." The officer who had spoken to Stephanie came over to Wyatt's table. Wyatt stood, positioning himself between the officer and Mallory, and began interpreting everything that was said, his hands moving fluidly as he translated the conversation. It turned out the man's name was Gregory Dalton, and when the officers ran his information, red flags started appearing immediately. He had prior arrests for harassment and stalking in 2 different states, Missouri and Kentucky. He had apparently fixated on Mallory after seeing her at the bookstore several weeks ago, and he'd been watching her, learning her routine, waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment that would have come tonight if she hadn't walked into this cafe, if she hadn't found someone who could communicate for her. "Ma'am, you're very lucky," one of the officers said, looking at Mallory even though she couldn't hear him. Wyatt interpreted, his face grave. "If you hadn't found someone who could communicate for you tonight, well, we've been looking for Mr. Dalton in connection to another case. He's dangerous." The officer didn't finish the thought. He didn't need to. Everyone in the cafe understood what he wasn't saying. As they led Gregory Dalton out in handcuffs, the cafe erupted into murmurs and gasps. Several of the people who hadn't understood Mallory earlier now approached her with apologies, with offers of comfort, with guilty faces that said, "I'm sorry I didn't help you." But Mallory barely noticed them. Her eyes were fixed on Wyatt, this stranger who had somehow become her guardian angel in the span of 15 minutes. "Thank you," she signed, and then the dam broke completely. She cried, deep, shuddering sobs that shook her entire body. 2 years of living alone after her mother's passing from a severe stroke. 4 years before that of navigating a hearing world that often forgot she existed. 2 weeks of living in fear, of looking over her shoulder, of feeling hunted. And today she had almost become another statistic, another name in a news report, another young woman who disappeared because she couldn't scream loud enough. If she hadn't walked into this cafe, if she hadn't seen Wyatt at the window, if he hadn't known sign language, the alternative was too horrible to contemplate.
Julie tugged on Wyatt's sleeve, her little face scrunched with concern. "Daddy, is the pretty lady still sad?" "She's feeling a lot of things right now, sweetheart. Sometimes people cry when they're relieved, not just when they're sad. Can I give her a hug? Hugs always make me feel better when I'm scared." Wyatt looked at Mallory and signed the question. "My daughter wants to know if she can give you a hug." Mallory nodded, fresh tears spilling over, and when Julie climbed down from her chair and wrapped her little arms around Mallory's waist, something inside Mallory healed just a little, something that had been broken for a very long time. "It's okay, pretty lady," Julie said, patting Mallory's back the way Wyatt always patted hers after a nightmare. "The bad guy is gone now, and me and Daddy will keep you safe, right, Daddy?" "That's right, sweetheart." Wyatt signed to Mallory what Julie had said, and Mallory hugged the little girl tighter, her tears falling into Julie's soft brown hair. "I don't know how to thank you," Mallory signed when she finally composed herself enough to pull back. "You saved my life." "You don't owe me anything," Wyatt replied, his hands steady and sure. "I'm just glad you found me." But even as he signed those words, Wyatt knew it was more than that. Something had shifted in the universe tonight. Something had clicked into place. He didn't understand it yet, didn't have words or signs for it, but he felt it deep in his bones. This wasn't just a rescue. This was the beginning of